Alrighty, game 3, and this time we're playing on Ephemeron. So presumably both these players are going to go Terran again. Here is Biggels in the top left this time, and we've got Matticus in the bottom right. So previous couple of games, Matticus has been slightly quicker to Expo and has been the aggressor in as much as he's pushed across the map. But you know, both times the army supplies have not been radically different, and you know, potentially with some slightly better positioning and possibly with some slightly more suitable upgrades, Biggels certainly could have held that last push. The first game possibly less so, but the last game he certainly could have held that push, but unfortunately didn't quite get his units into the right position and sort of came down the ramp into the teeth of a slightly superior force with more marauders in it and siege tanks, etc. So what we're going to see this time, Biggels is the first person to have an SCV on the map. He's going for a very standard sort of supply depot into barracks, which is what is pretty normal. Matticus likewise. Again, we've got this really early engineering bay, and I just don't understand it. I don't know what it's about. Second Rax comes down for Matticus, and that's a little unusual. I mean, typically I would only be building a second Rax before the first one's finished if I was going to be playing for fairly early pressure of some description. But who knows? Who knows what we're going to see here? I mean, my very standard Terran build, if I'm not really sure what I'm going to play, and I'm just going to wait and scout and sort of react, you know, my standard opening as a Terran would be supply depot. As soon as that's finished, I will drop a barracks, and then I'll drop a gas almost at exactly the same time, constantly building SCVs, obviously. And as soon as the barracks finishes, I will tend to send the SCV that was building it to build an expo. You know, and if you follow that timing approximately, you should find that you've got just about enough money to start the expo straight away as the barracks finishes up, and you can start then a marine, or you can wait for about 10-15 seconds and start a reaper. You'll also find that you'll very quickly at that point have enough money to get the orbital command started as well, and that's kind of, that would be my standard opening. Where I go after that, you know, wherever I like really, but that would be just a pretty normal opening for a Terran. It just means you've got your barracks, you've got your expo building by this sort of time, and you're in a position to then do what you like. You've got one gas mine in, so you can afford the tech lab, you can afford to start combat shield if that's what you want to do. If you prefer, you can drop a reactor, and you can throw down a second gas and drop a factory. All of those type of options are open to you. So this time Biggels with two proxied buildings, and this is interesting. I'm not sure what he's got in mind here. There's the factory proxied here, and you know, something I've seen before, which it's been a long time since I've seen it, to be honest, but is possible. You finish up the factory on a map like this where there is a sort of dark region of your opponent's base. Finish up the factory, lift it, fly it into this corner, land it, build two widow mines, and just march them into the mineral line here and burrow them. And if you do that, you know, it is possible to get those two widow mines into your opponent's base more quickly than flying them in by medevac. Not that much more quickly, but more quickly. To be honest, is it enough more quickly to make a difference in the EMS league? Not 100% sure, but it's still kind of a fairly cute build. So Biggels cranking out some marines here, so presumably he's going to be trying to put on some hurt, but Matticus does have a marine advantage by the looks of things, so no, actually I tell a lie, he doesn't. So there must be more marines at home. There are, yeah, so that's, you know, I don't know about this. Oh, yes please, yes please. Thinking about it, here we go. Yeah, I like it. I like this a lot. So yeah, this can be pretty cute. A couple of options then. He can fly this in, and I'd probably go widow mine personally, but the other option is you could go ahead and crank out a couple of Hellions, and it is going to be Hellions. So You're going to want to pull the Hellions here. The reason I prefer the Widow Mines is because it's quicker damage. These, oh, is this going to see it? No, nope, not quite. I prefer the Widow Mines. Oh, nice. The SCV, of course, buildings under construction do not have much sight range, but SCVs have got a larger sight range. So when the SCV came around the side here during construction, it revealed this, but Matticus doesn't appear to be reacting to this whatsoever. He's fine with the fact that there's a big red building in his base, and he's okay with this big red dot on the minimap. So there is a chance here that Biggels can get something done with this. But yeah, you know, 2 Widow Mines will definitely obliterate some SCVs. Hellions, you actually do need a few of them before... Oh no, don't shoot the reactor, mate. Don't do that. Look, what is the point in this? Literally, what's the point? You're not going to kill a reactor. You've just given the game away. You've just told your opponent that you're there when previously he was apparently oblivious to it. You know, that is a real shame, because had he just waited until he had 2, 3 Hellions, so he could have got up into this mineral line, you know, like that number of Hellions, it only takes a few shots to start wiping out SCVs, and because of the way Hellions do splash, you can kill quite a few quite quickly. To kill a refinery with a single Hellion, I'm going to guess takes 45 minutes or something. You know, it was working away on this for ages, and you know, look how much damage it's done. It's dropped it to 430 out of 500. So a bit of a wasted opportunity there from Biggels, and that's a shame, because he could have done something quite cool there. But as it stands, you know, Biggels has got this stuff on the other side of the map. He's going to lose all of this. He's still got, I presume, a reasonable chunk of army at home, but it isn't as substantial as the Matticus army. I don't think this factory is going to be able to do anything other than have a look around in the main base when he's landing it, but you know, I think the gig's up really. You know, Matticus is onto you. I don't think you're going to get anything further done with this. So in the production tab, siege tanks now coming out for Matticus as well. It's still Marines over here for Biggels. There's no tech lab here, so these Marines won't have any sort of upgrades in terms of combat shield or stim. I don't think either of the eBay upgrades have been done. So he's marching across the map here, but you know, his factory, he's just seen his opponent's army. So I'm not sure about the sense in this. You know, you've seen that your opponent has got the bigger army than you. So I'm not sure what he's hoping to achieve here. I mean, if this stuff marches up this ramp, it just dies. You know, that's a really substantial number advantage there. It's twice the army with the siege tank as well. So sensibly, Biggels decides, do you know what? I'm going to go home. And that is the correct decision. You know, the command center now building, but look, this has been mining for quite some time. It's hard to see how Biggels is going to be able to come back into this game, having committed pretty hard to this sort of slightly wonky build, which could have certainly had the potential to get some stuff done. So these Marines, this time at the top of the ramp, reasonably well positioned, but without siege tank support, without a bunker, it isn't really going to matter. There's just too much stuff here, way too much. It's also +1, and this is +0. So again, Matticus is going to be able to just click here. Surprised he didn't siege up one of the tanks. Would have been a nice way to do this. This time there is a siege tank on the high ground, but isn't in siege mode. And again, it's right at the edge here. You know, if this is positioned somewhere about there in siege mode, it can make a huge difference. I mean, you do need to make a huge difference against this, but this is very Marine heavy, and siege tanks with the splash damage they do are really effective against large groups of Marines. But you know, there's just too much here, and this game is over. So some interesting things almost happened there. I liked what is going on here. I liked the little play with the factory. It's quite a cool little trick to do. You know, fly that factory up into your opponent's base and crank some stuff out of it. Didn't quite pan out on this occasion. Yeah, Biggels, you know, give it up. Um, I don't know. We do seem to get a lot of this, don't we? In the EMS tournaments, we do seem to get a fair amount of sort of saltiness of people, Terrans, sort of refusing to die and going, "It's not over. I can still win. I'm going to fly over here." And you know, in general, if it gets to the point where you're having to fly your entire base out of your men, you are not going to win. Pretty much as a rule. Yeah, the battlecruiser turns up as well, and that's going to be able to follow about any flying buildings and end this game pretty sharpish. Well, there we go. So Matticus, looking like he knows how to macro, looking like he knows how to put together a push. Yeah, wins 3-0. GG.